Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Skilled Migrant Collective Stories. Today, I am with Emilie Walsh. She is from France and she has been living 7 years in Australia. She is an artist. She studied here a PhD in fine art in Melbourne University. And today we are going to talk about art, about migrant life, and obviously about entrepreneurship. Hi, Emilie. Thanks for being here with us.
Hello. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. Hey, I'm very excited about this interview. Every time I really like to explore the artist side of life. So let's
welcome to my little studio space where I'm doing the interview today. This is my little creative cave.
I love it. Yeah, you have a little tools in the back. What is this about?
Yes. It's very new, this little studio. It's been a couple of months since I've started doing renovation and installing, so I'm still doing a lot of stuff, but it's great. It's so essential for an artist to have a space to create. So it's been a good lockdown little creative bubble to set up this studio.
Wow, I'm very curious about what have you been creating. But first, let's start from the beginning. And hey, how did you get to Australia?
Yes, let's start with the very beginning. So I've been in Melbourne specifically for a little bit over 7 years now. I moved to Melbourne in July 2014, and that was to start my PhD in fine arts. So I moved to Australia specifically to study and to pursue a PhD. I wanted to do it for a long time. I was a fine art high school teacher in France and working in museum education after studying fine arts and art history. But the itch to go back to study, I really wanted to push my art practice further, and I started looking for a PhD. And I should mention, I studied fine art and I did my PhD on adventure. So I studied the imagination of adventure. Anything you think of, if you're thinking Indiana Jones, all the cliche, that's what I was studying, like all the narratives and the imagination of adventure. So obviously I couldn't stay home to do that. I had to go and pursue my PhD at the other side of the world. It made sense. And I wanted to study in an English-speaking country. I should have mentioned I'm French. You guys would spot the accent, but I'm also Irish. My mom is from Belfast, but I spent most of my life growing up in France, south of France, near Marseille. And I wanted to do my PhD in English language, to reconnect maybe with my Irish heritage, to really be fluent in English. And yeah, so that was a motivation. And I was looking everywhere. I was looking Canada. I didn't have my eyes set on Australia per se, but then Melbourne started to very clearly emerge as a great place for the arts. And I found the art school at the University of Melbourne, the VCA, which I was really interested in, and applied, and eventually it worked. And I moved here in 2014 to start the PhD. Yeah,
wow.
that's what. Yeah.
How was this experience as a student?
Look, it's still a little bit fresh. It took me a while to finish the PhD and ask anyone how they feel about it. It was hard. It's a very long and difficult journey. And I thought a PhD is very self-directed. It's really your research. It can be a passion project, and it was for me, but it's still a bit lonely and isolating. And I thought it was really hard to start a PhD in a new country. I arrived in the middle of the year to start on semester 2 intake. So I didn't meet the other PhD who started the same year as me. There's not really a sense of cohorts. I was giving a studio. There was a lot of great things, like the art school, the VCA is a great place to study with great, art studio. things that I couldn't have back at home. So I was excited. I was thrilled. I feel lucky and privileged. But then getting into it, I thought it was also lonely and hard to how to break in the art scene, hard to really make connection. And that's because it's hard to start fresh from a new country. I moved to Melbourne when I was 30 years old, so already done a lot of stuff before, but it felt a bit like starting from scratch a little bit. So that's always exciting and hard. Yeah.
And did you work when you were at the uni?
Yes, during my PhD, I started picking up a little bit of tutoring. I have a lot of experience teaching. I have qualification, as I said, as a high school teacher in France and worked a lot in museum education. So I was eager to teach. I love teaching. So I picked up a little bit of tutoring at the university, taught in the French department as well, because native French speaker. And then worked in research support. I was teaching 3D printing. Look at those colorful sculpture behind. Those are made with 3D printing, which was great. And worked a little bit in research support. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the university setting. I met a lot of incredible people. I met a lot of other international PhD candidates as well, which was great, from all around the world. But sadly, when I graduated at the end of 2019, then the pandemic hit. And I was still in my job, my part-time job that I had throughout my PhD in research support. I was a pedagogy coach. I was helping other PhD teach better. And I lost that job because my whole service was canceled with the pandemic. So it's been pretty hard to finish the PhD and then in the pandemic. So I found myself a bit stuck, and because I love teaching so much, and I've always ran a lot of workshops teaching printmaking, which is one of my specialty, I decided to start my business just as a professional artist, offering my service in teaching and workshop. And it is hard because of the context of the pandemic, but it's going to be great. And now I have this space, this studio, where I'll be able to host small little boutique class for 6 participants. So yeah, it was a bit of a journey, but here I am at the other side of the PhD starting my business.
Yeah, I love it. And can you tell us more about that? How is called your little studio, and what are the kind of classes that you're going to offer?
Yes, so this little studio I call Couleur, which simply means color in French. I wanted to keep a little bit of a French touch. I'm obsessed with color. I love vibrant colors everywhere. And with printmaking, which is the main art form that I'm going to teach, printmaking is a bit like making big stamps. So this is a plate that I've carved. You can carve woods, all kind of material. And then with the roller, you ink and you print like a big stamp. So it's a great technique that you can reproduce print and images, but often it requires like heavy machinery, chemicals. You might have seen big press in printmaking workshop. It relies a lot on a lot of technique and heavy material. So what I'm doing is I've developed a little bit of a workflow, a technique that allow people to teach to print from home, just hand print, do-it-yourself technique, experimental technique, printing with a pasta maker, because I'm really interested in empowering everyone with having a little bit of an art practice. And printmaking is fun and playful and really accessible. So that's what I'm hoping to teach here in my little studio Couleur. So I teach outside of my studio. For 3 years, I've been teaching for great organizations, non-for-profit, they're called Laneway Learning. They're in the city. And they teach a little bit of everything and anything. And I teach a lot of art classes every Wednesday there. And it's been a great community that really help and support me and give me the courage to start this little business, I think. And that's, sorry, I talk a lot. I just want to mention that that's key, because I think I want to talk a little bit about the experience of when being a new migrant here in Australia and difficulties. And I think the main one that I identify is, well, the lack of network. Not having grown up here and starting at 30, you cannot navigate the Australian society the same way someone who was born here can. It's different. So we start at different levels. So any kind of community that I was able to be part of has been what has helped me the most. If, for instance, that community at Laneway Learning, they really helped me, and I think it was the seed to now start my own business.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that, because in the interview, looks like pretty organic. Then the way that you finish you're in the way to finish your PhD and you have your small business. But what happened in the middle? Like all these difficulties that we have to arrive to this point. One, to arrive this idea, then what I want to do. And the second one is how I'm going to do it, and what kind of network do I need to achieve that?
Yeah. No, you're right. And I'm now, today, I'm sorry. Yeah.
How was your experience? Because we also talk about working in Australia, and I asked you that before, like, are the Australians prepared to work with migrants, but the skilled ones in a professional area? Are they so open to embrace migration and diversity? In your experience, how was it?
Well, can get better for sure. Anyone can improve their, tolerance and empathy and curiosity. And I think when I started at the university, it's a little bit more privileged in that sense, because university attracts a lot of students from around the world, so they're often quite cosmopolitan in themselves. And so I think in the university setting, it's a little bit easier. People are simply maybe a little bit more used to working with people from around the world, and that means being used to working with people with all kind of accents who don't necessarily have all the cultural references. But then outside of university, I find that maybe it's not quite there yet. Everything just takes a little bit more time. Maybe at first there's a little bit of a curiosity and a novelty. When people, I can pass for Australian, but when I open my mouth, people immediately spot the French accent. And then sometimes people really want me to be very French. And I can start speaking with a much Frencher accent if it pleases you. But sometimes people just want me to make them crêpe or give them the cliche of the French, the romantic idea of the French cliche, I guess. And that's just a stereotype. And I'm lucky because French is seen positively. It's like, ooh, glamorous, ooh la la. So I feel stereotyped, so I feel put in a box often, but at least it's not a negative stereotype. So that really opened my own mind to thinking of other people who experience being stereotyped, but who are part of community who are negatively stereotyped and discriminated on. So it opened a little window that made me realize the hardship of all migrants. And for me, I think it's easier because I'm still white, educated, and I still have a good English because I'm half Irish as well. But despite that, it was still hard for me. I still see people doing that weird face when you open your mouth because they don't quite understand what you say straight away. So yeah, I think it's definitely much harder when you're not from the country, and I hope it changed because it's a diversity and it's a richness for any country to embrace other cultures, and it's a diversity and a richness in the workplace, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, and Emilie, have you feel discriminated in these 7 years? Thinking mainly maybe in the professional area, in your working experience.
I don't think there was intentional
No.
discrimination. I was lucky. I met some supportive people, but it's just a bit of an image. Maybe people don't necessarily think that you're going to be around for a long time. You sometimes consider a little bit like a second class citizen, in the sense that people don't necessarily invest in you the same way because they don't see you as fully part of the landscape and going to be around forever. That was really true during the PhD. A lot of international candidates go back to pursue their research career back home or elsewhere. And so the lack of pathway to integrate more in society is, I would consider that discrimination. But I also know that I had also a lucky experience and met a lot of supportive people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think in the way that we find our community, we are going to have like a better experience. And also we can work together to show to the OC community what we have been doing and what are our dreams and what are our projects. So thinking in this topic, what do you think are the points or the obstacles that we face when we want to go to the professional area or maybe improve our working situation, thinking as a migrant?
Well, many, and I would say that the language and network as the two top difficulty that we face. I'm a communicator, so are you, right? So adapting all those skills in a different language is quite something. So all my experience teaching, writing, communicating, talking, like doing public speaking, all of those skills that I had and that I felt confident about back in France, when I come here, they stoop down a bit because I have to catch up on the language and cultural aspect that are specific to this setup in Australia. So that takes a while, and I felt for a while like you carry a bit of like a heavy backpack. It's harder for you until you're able to empty it by getting better in English and cultural skills. So I think that's a hard one. For instance, one of my dreams would be to have a TV show and like a cooking show, but for arts and crafts. I don't know if you know like the famous British celebrity chef like Jamie Oliver. I want to be the Jamie Oliver of arts and crafts. Right? Well, can I do that? Can I be on TV with a French accent? I think so. I think you. That's
Why
something
not?
that feels. Yeah, I think so. And
it's you.
When you watch TV these days, there's a lot of, especially cooking show. I quite like cooking show. There's a lot of chefs from all around the world, and I think society is changing. People like that. They're curious. I have felt a lot of genuine, positive curiosity as well about my heritage, my European heritage. So maybe it can be a strength as well. But it's still, can I? And I lose a bit. I lost a little bit of confidence when I moved here. Can I do that? Can I be on Australian TV? Like it takes a while to feel a sense of belonging and to get rid of a lot of mental block that we internalize as well. I think, to have the guts to be like, no, I can navigate this space. This is for me as well. I belong. And there are internal factors and there are also external factors because you experience those discriminations. So
yeah, but it's interesting to see how these internal factors affect how these external affects your internal well-being, because in the end you work with that. Being an artist, you need to express, you need to be creative, and if you are bothered or disturbed or you don't feel you are welcome here, well, this is obviously going to affect your work also.
Yeah, and I think that all of that has become more visible and more brutal with the pandemic, because I feel like I intersect like, oh yeah, being a migrant is not easy, being an artist is really not easy. Well, during the pandemic, impossible, right? I thought that this is a moment where I felt a lot of loneliness and doubted that I was really welcome here, and as an artist, I'd say maybe more than as a migrant, because I don't know, I wasn't eligible to any money from the government during the whole pandemic, and I don't feel seen and valued as an artist in society, even though I think we talked about it together. Arts helped everyone survive the pandemic, reading book, watching movies. So why are we so undervalued and not taken care of during this difficult time? So that if you add that on top of the already difficult experience of being a migrant, there's a lot of moments where I felt really not part of society, and that sense of belonging that I was talking before, and not integrated. And it's a frustration because I know I have a lot to offer. I have a lot of skills and passion, and sometimes I feel like I'm like society is not making the most out of me. I'm not. Guys, I have a lot of stuff to share and teach. Like, ask me. And sometimes I don't feel seen or used enough by society. So, but yeah, I hope it gets better after the pandemic.
Yeah, and also for this reason, I created Skill Migrant Collective, because I want to show our stories and show what we are doing. And we need to create our community and help us, and we can recommend us, and we can. I think in this big community we are going to have like a lot of mini areas, but let's create a network and work all together. I think we need to be seen, and I want to do that. Show our stories. And let's talk about the importance of art, because this is a big issue. I mean, I think people don't really value what art means, and now I think people have a wrong concept of art. Just art is the thing that you can see in National Victorian Art Gallery or in the museums, like in big institutions. But what happened with the artists? Then they are creating their own art. This is the point of art. It's like be genuine and be creative and experiment with different techniques.
I think you're right. There is a bit of a separation, like as you say, like art, it's in the museum, and we have a bit of a, I think, old-fashioned idea of what artists and creative do, like separated from the world in their ivory tower, doing like some sort of magical stuff that we don't understand. I wanna break that cliche, and just that's why I'm so passionate about teaching, bringing just a little bit of creative practice, no matter what the scale is, even if it's just a tiny little hobby practice. I think it enrich everyone's life and help engage more with the self, with the world, and with art. I think if you give it a try and do a little bit of drawing, then when you go to a museum, you appreciate so much better the art, because you've had your own like hands-on experience of it. And that's something I really believe in, and that I want to do, is bring democratize art is really one of the key mission that I've set for myself, and increase accessibility to art, and bring art into people's life through making. That's really what I do. And I think, engaging with your hands is just such a powerful way to really connect. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I believe artists have a mission to, engage, educate, provoke as well, and spark joy and curiosity. And it became really evident once I finished the PhD, and you sort of leave university, you go back into society, and you question, what's my big role? What's my big mission? And I think for me, it's really that engagement and education that I'm tying with my own art practice.
I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
don't know if that answers your question. I don't know.
I love it. I love it, and I really love the power that you said of art to connect with yourself. Because I've been doing art as a therapeutical way to manage my emotions more now in pandemic times.
Oh, I teach online for Language Learning every Wednesday, and the classes are full. People come again, just to do a bit of drawing, a bit of watercolor, a bit of collage. And I'm so happy to see those classes well attended. And I see that it fills a need. And it's great for me to sit down every Wednesday and do a little bit of art with friends and strangers online, much better than watching Netflix again.
Yeah,
So
of course.
it's really
We need human
bringing
connection.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, Emilie, where the people can find you and can find more information about your little studio so they can check your work and also your new business idea.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for giving me the platform to share a little bit what I do. Best way to find me these days would be on Instagram. I'm sure you can add that maybe when you post the interview, but and my little studio is called Couleur. I'm just finishing to open and doing the renovation and building a website at the moment. But I'm in Collingwood, just a minute from Smith Street, really in the heart of one of the most vibrant art scene in Australia. So I'm very lucky to have found this little space. And I'll be opening when the lockdown ends, and I'll be offering printmaking class, one-off and mini terms of printmaking, and maybe a long weekend workshop, little taster, all kind of stuff. So I really hope to see some of you here in my little art studio. But best place to be in touch for the moment would be Instagram, my personal Instagram, and Couleur Instagram. So yeah, please follow me, be in touch.
Thank you so much for today. I really love all the conversation, and thanks for share all your wisdom with us. And yeah, see you soon when all these crazy times finish. I really want to visit you in your in your little studio. So thanks for
Thank you so much
today.
for giving me that opportunity to have a chat, and I'm looking forward to watching all the other interview and starting to build that network with you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day. Bye bye. Thank you, Emilie.
Bye.